What will people do when the money runs out? Every empire says its money is safe. Every government claims its promises will last for a long time. But history keeps coming back around and shows us that it's not really like that. From Rome to France, from the Confederacy to modern Lebanon, people have woken up one morning to find their savings gone, their salaries meaningless, and the systems they trusted not actually protecting them. The truth is, collapse isn't as rare as we think. It's actually part of the system, and the real question isn't if it will happen, but what you will do when it does. Most people look at their bank accounts or the cash in their pockets and think it's a solid foundation. But money isn't really the guarantee they believe it is. It's completely based on trust. And that trust can disappear much faster than you think, sometimes literally overnight. That's why history is both harsh and very instructive, because every collapse clearly shows us what truly holds value. If you pay attention, you'll notice that the people who come out best from these crises aren't the ones who trust the system the most, but the ones who start questioning it early. For example, think about the Byzantine Empire. It is considered the continuation of Rome, yet it managed to survive for centuries even after the Western Roman Empire collapsed. At the center of its economy was the gold solidus, and this currency was so trusted that merchants accepted it without hesitation. But the ironic part is that even though they knew about Rome's mistake of debasing its currency, Byzantium eventually started doing the same thing. The purity of the gold slowly lost its value, cheaper metals were mixed in, and at first nobody noticed. Then trust began to shake, and that once powerful currency turned into just another promise. In the end, the economy couldn't stay as strong as before because trust had disappeared. But the ones who survived this period weren't those holding paper promises. They were the ones who invested in gold or land. This is a very old lesson, but still relevant today, because governments almost never resist the temptation to devalue money. And when they do, people move toward assets that can actually hold their value. But not every crisis comes from bad management. Sometimes unexpected events can disrupt the entire system. For example, when the Black Death hit Europe, a large portion of the population died and life completely changed. With fewer people, labor became more valuable, and survivors were able to demand better conditions. At the same time, land and resources became more abundant, making them easier to access. Because of this, people who had liquidity or saw the opportunity early gained power quickly and moved up in society. And if this sounds familiar, it's because we experienced something very similar not too long ago. During COVID, supply chains broke down, massive amounts of money entered the system, and everything shifted unexpectedly. Those with money accumulated assets, while many others struggled just to survive, and the gap widened even more. This shows us that crises don't affect everyone equally. They reward those who are prepared and push the unprepared into a harder life. This cycle has repeated throughout history and continues to repeat. Florence faced a similar situation. Large banks gave people confidence, but things suddenly backfired. When kings couldn't repay their debts, major banks went bankrupt and ordinary people couldn't get their savings back. At that moment, everyone realized something important. Being big does not mean being safe. Institutions don't exist to protect you, they exist to make profit, and when things go wrong, they can pull you down with them. This hasn't changed over the centuries, it stayed the same. Only the names changed, but the outcome remained the same. In Lebanon, people trusted banks, but one day those trusted doors closed and they couldn't get their money back. Suddenly, savings became worthless, and people did everything they could to get their own money. Meanwhile, those who kept their wealth outside the system or invested in different assets were in a much better position. All of these examples point to one simple truth. Trusting blindly is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Real protection comes from owning things that can hold their value even outside the system. Gold, Land, production, or skills can still hold value even during a crisis, because no matter what happens, people still need to eat, produce, and continue living. That's why the strongest people aren't just the ones who have money, but the ones who can create value. When a crisis hits, money can lose its meaning, but production and human needs never disappear. In the end, every crisis is actually a transfer. The prepared win and the unprepared lose. And the most important question is this: will you be one of those who trust the system, or one of the few who see the reality early? If this gave you a new perspective, don't forget to subscribe and like. More videos are on the